I think a time in the service is really good for everybody. It's a good way to start your life. Well, I spent a lot of my time in training, about 2 years. And from there, I wound up in a test flight unit out in Hawaii. They'd work on planes, and we'd take them up, fire them up, make everything work. And that was our job. I started school in Fargo at the college there. Guy come in there one day and was out to find somebody to sign up, and came in the classroom and gave us a talk. And he had this uniform on, so gee, that looked pretty nice, if nothing else. But so we spent some of the time in June. We left there in September and went to Minot, and that's where we first started to fly. We went to the college. They was always come up with cards we could get, if there was anything going on, we could come to that for nothing. And so they really treated us good all the time. But we went to a dance there, and that's where I met my wife. She looked like a pretty good gal. So. But we didn't get married until after the war for a while. But it was one good thing about stopping there. In Pensacola we went different places, but it was kind of a crash program that they had during that time, and they were getting short on pilots, they said. So we were in a lot of different colleges and airports and through my training. But I wound up in Pensacola, and there we flew single engine planes for a while, SNB and SNJ. And then I had a chance to go to multi-engines or continuous thing, but I said I wanted multi-engines, so then they put me in the PBY. So we flew that for a long time. That's where I got my wings. And after Pensacola, I went to the east side of Florida and Banana River, Coco Solo, whatever, different names. And there I flew PBM. They're a little faster, a little better equipped, I guess. But the PBY, that was a kind of a chance to fly something different. At the end of the war, we had a chance to buy those I could get one for $800. But I didn't know how I was going to get it back. You have any idea how many gallons of gas they hold? 3,400 gallons. So to fill up at this price, I wouldn't really want to go. When we were in Minneapolis, and before we went to Pensacola, they had those bi-wings that a lot of use a lot of them for spring fields and stuff now. But at that time, they're yellow birds, they called them, and they're N2S, and they had two wings and open cockpit, one ahead of the other one. And during that time, they decided they had too many pilots, so word come down, they had to wash out 50%. So if you blinked when you shouldn't have, you lost your job. But they would take and try and involve him in flying as a gunner for some of the planes that had him and stuff like that. But I was lucky enough to get through. But towards the end of the time, my instructor pulled one on me. We were going to go up and loop. He said, well, we got up, and he got up on top, upside down, and he put it in a spin. And well, I'd never been involved in anything like that. I was in the front seat, he was whipping around more than I was, and he said, you got it, I lost my glasses. I don't know if he did or not, but that was the test. But it just came natural to turn, it upside, right side up. We did a lot of aerobatics there. It was one thing that plane could do anything. It'd be slow rolls and snap rolls, all kinds of things like they do at these air shows, You couldn't hang it on the prop like they do they got a lot of power in those planes. You get to be part of the machine during that time. So It's kind of fun. The seaplanes is something I guess they're going to bring in the PBY today, the way it sounds. But I never flew one with wheels on. With those ones we flew, we'd taxi up to the ramp, and the guys would come out with wheels, just shaft and the wheel stuck in there somewhere, I guess. I never had to do it, but anyway, then they'd pull it out of the water with the tractor. But this is going to be different. I know they had them with wheels on, but we never got to fly any. But when I was there, it was the second day that I was up with, I flew over Honolulu and Diamond Head, and here across this big line of ships, and I couldn't figure out what that was. It just at that time, the war was over, but still, to see that kind of thing was really something. Hair up in the back of your neck or whatever. But it was funny, and then I found out later that it was they'd just coming back from Japan signing the treaty. So they had all kinds of big equipment there. It was pretty time to be really proud, to see that. For many years that nobody even talked about it, but at my age, and of course there aren't very many of us left. We get good treatment, that's for sure.